Hi Mustangs, this is Mr. Wormuth, and this is the rundown for week of Monday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So I'm going to try to keep this short as I can because we don't really have a lot of homework for this week or next week. I just want to make sure that you remember that you need to do your reader's response writing. So let's talk about that first and in under 5 minutes. So the reader's response is something you can find on Canvas, and I can point that out to you in just a little bit. But this is the template, the document that shows you what you're going to do. You have 6 different, areas that you're going to discuss. Summary of the story you chose. Theme discussion, which is interdependence, meaning working with 2 or more people together. The importance of setting, how the setting shapes the characters or the plot of your story. Literary devices, vocabulary, and recommendation. Recommendation should be easy. It's just a paragraph on whether or not you would recommend it to a friend. And most of these, if you think about them as paragraphs, it'll make for a paper that's probably about 1.5 pages or 2 pages long. Probably closer to 2. So the summary would be a paragraph or 2. Theme discussion is probably going to be 1 paragraph. Importance of setting is 1 paragraph. So there's a page right there. Literary devices and vocabulary are different because you're coming up with 3 examples. There's the 3 of each, meaning 3 examples of similes and metaphors, or hyperbole or idioms or allusion, whatever you find. If something stands out as figurative, then that's probably an example you can use. You're going to find 3 of those examples, share where you found them in the story, like page 1 of A Christmas Carol. You can't use Christmas Carol, though. Remember, you chose your book and you read it. You've been reading over these past 5 weeks. You have to go back and find those things now if you didn't already take notes. Explain what it is, whether it's a simile, metaphor, and what and why the author is using that example, that comparison. Vocabulary is the same kind of deal. Find 3 words that are interesting, define them, explain what they mean, all that good stuff. So again, this thing should turn into about a 2-page paper, 1.5 page paper, something like that. And as always, the sooner you can get it done and turn it in, the more likely I am to get it back to you with comments so you can get an even better grade. So there's the response writing. You can find this on Canvas. You could find it under Files on the Canvas page. You could find it under Week 12 and then moving forward from there. If you look through all those RL assignment pages, you will find it linked here and there. Should also be linked under the assignment itself, the reader's response Q4. And I can show you that too. So let's look at everything. So starting from the main page, I'm still getting questions from students and parents about where do we find the assignments. I get the feeling some of you are going to modules and you're going, okay, I have this story to read, but I don't know where that's at. So that's what the video is for, and that's what all of these RL assignment pages to begin each week are for as well. So if you click on that, like week 17, it should tell you what you need to do each day of the week. Remember, we have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday school days, and then we alternate as to which days are English days. So this week we have 2. We have Monday and Friday. Wednesday is not a class day, but it's a day to post reminders. I think that's a good thing to do. So if you read all the instructions, it tells you what to do. There are click here's all over the place to help you find the stories and the assignments as well. Just got to read your instructions. So for Monday, May the 4th, today, you're going to read a short story about a girl who decides to conduct her own one-person sit-in in Louisville, Kentucky during the Civil Rights Movement. So last week we read about Diane Nash, and Diane Nash was a name that you hear if you do some research into the Civil Rights Movement as someone who was an organizer, a leader in the Nashville area. And so this story, it's called Doris is Coming by ZZ Packer, is about a girl who's probably seen these things on TV growing up in the 60s and read about the sit-ins and the protests and the marches in the newspaper, and she wants to do something. She wants to be a part of it, but she may not know how. And so this young girl, she see, I think it just kind of happens. As you read the story, you'll find out. But as she's walking past this restaurant in 1960s Louisville, Kentucky, she decides she's going to go in and sit at the lunch counter. Which it's funny because I I don't know if we think of Louisville, Kentucky as the South. It's close. It's a border state. Um, so I'm sure the girl in the story, even though it's a fictional story, grew up with some racism in her life, but maybe not to the extent of someone who grew up in Mississippi. Mississippi was pretty rough. Alabama, Georgia, those places were not Louisville, Kentucky. But either way, she wants to do her part, and she felt, I guess, safe enough to do it on her own. So read the story. She goes in, she sits down, and what happens next? It's a great example of voice, and there's a video here for you to click on if you're not sure what I'm talking about. But it's kind of what makes your writing yours. It's hard to teach. Some people are just naturally good at this. When I read some of your work, I can tell it's yours. Like your voice comes through, your style comes through. For most people, for most students that I read, stories are just stories. But every now and then, there's a handful of you that come along that I can read, and I know it's yours. It sounds like you. It sounds like you are telling me a story. So good writers have that. Some are more distinct than others, though. I always think of like J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter series. Those books sound very distinct. They have their own sound, their own voice. And if you've read Harry Potter, then you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, you can read this story on page 103 of your Collections 7 Close Reader. That's the floppy book. You can click here to find it online. You can click here as well to find a PDF of the same story. This is the same link that took you to the story for last week about Diane Nash, but you have to flip through the pages and find page 103. It's the second half of the PDF. So again, page 103. They're crossed out on this PDF, the page numbers, but you'll find it. All right, language review, adjectives. There's not a lot here because you should probably remember what adjectives are. They're describing words, words that modify nouns. You can watch the clip. Maybe you've seen it before, maybe not, but it's just to kind of review what adjectives are. Next week, we'll do the same for adverbs. I think it's adverbs. Again, we're just doing review because these were on the list of things to do at the end of the year, whether we were meeting face-to-face or not. These are things that we would see on iLearn, and you'll see next year for sure. My bet is that you'll start off 8th grade doing review of some of these things we're talking about now. But that's for next year. Wednesdays are a blue day, so it's not our day. Just reminders about the reader's response. Click here to submit, or click here to see the template. There should be a link in that assignment as well for the template. If you're missing any work, let me know. Check your grades. Look and see. If you know you're missing something, get with me. I've emailed a lot of people over the past 2 weeks, parents and students. I'm getting some good responses, some not so good responses, or nothing. So if you need help, everyone here at Wainwright is here to help you. We just need you to respond and meet us halfway. If you want to do some Quizlet stuff, Greek and Latin roots 5B, just because it feels normal, you can. You can review those things. We don't have quizzes necessarily that are going to cover these things. It's just for you to kind of touch on and review. You'll see the roots next year in 8th grade as well, so it gives you a head start. Plus, you can play the games, which are fun. Friday, May 8th. This is a day where you have something to read. It's a story about a man named Stephen Reed. It's a Newsela article. I'll click right here to show you the Newsela article as the first African-American mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. So an interesting story. You can go through that. There are quizzes, associated with the Newsela stories. I was afraid that if I assigned you a quiz through Newsela, that might be confusing and I might not get those scores back. So here's what I did. I created my own quiz for you. Click here to take a short quiz on what you've read. Now, this is optional. The focus for this week and next week, my main concern is for you to get the reader's response done, but we can still read stories and we can still do activities. I don't want to give you additional writings on top of the reader's response right now because I think that might be too much. Excuse me. But this short quiz over the Stephen Reed article is for extra credit. So if you want to do it, if you want the extra credit, you can. You do not have to. The way it's set up is that when you take the quiz, it is, I don't think it's up here anywhere. I'll click on it. When you take the quiz, it's going to be for 0 points. In order for this to work, that's the way I had to set it up. So you'll take your quiz, even if you ace it, it'll say 0 out of 0, which means it will not hurt you in any way. Okay? Worth no points, gained no points. But then I'll have to go back in and give you those points. Okay? So there's a way I can do that. I check your answers. I give you the 3 or the 6 or whatever points we want to throw your way. But don't freak out. If you see 0 out of 0, you think you got them all right. You probably did. There's just no points allowed. In order for this to work, I have to go back in and manually add those points into the test. It'll all make sense in the end. So again, there's no code. There's no secret password. It's just if you want to take the quiz, you can. It's for extra credit. You do not have to do it if you don't want to. All right, second half of the day here for Friday. More review from adjectives, and this is straight from IXL. They had a nice explanation of this idea of putting or ordering adjectives in relation to the nouns they describe. So this box of words, jumble of words here in the middle, is trying to illustrate how there are different types of adjectives, whether they're giving opinion or size or shape or age or color or origin or material or purpose or qualifier, it says. That all, when used, are modifying or describing nouns. So like wall or car or stove. Now, we put them all together, excuse me, the flat red brick wall, those words have to be ordered in that specific way. You can't say the red wall brick flat. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so if you read from left to right across each line, a nice little camping stove, it makes sense. If you click on IXL here at the bottom, you can practice that. Okay, so here's our example: gorilla, older, active, and. Well, and wouldn't start those things. You just pick up and move those blue boxes. And gorilla, older. Well, it can't be and gorilla. That doesn't make any sense. So how about an older gorilla no. How about an older active gorilla or an active older gorilla? Let's see if they want them in a specific order. Let's go with an older active gorilla. Oh, they didn't like it. Let's see why they didn't like that. Because if you look on here, it tells you, put the words in the right order. Here's our answer. Let's see. It explains that the and comes first. Adjective active gives an opinion, so it comes second. So if you look at the chart, kind of like what I had here, they need to go in a specific order. Okay. So let's see, an active is an opinion, it says. Opinion comes first. Older tells about the age, that would come second, and gorilla comes last. Wow, that's specific. But it's kind of fun. It got it. Let's try another one together. A large chocolate donut. I don't think we could say a chocolate large donut. I bet it has to be a large chocolate donut. This is probably going to be that far right one. Yep, we were right. The electronics Mexican factory. The Mexican electronics factory, I bet, is what they want. So that's it. It's just kind of playing around with this idea that you have to put them in specific order in order for the subject to make sense or the word to make sense. That's it. It's as long as I can go. It's 10 minutes or more probably. So if you have questions, please ask. If you need anything, please ask. Please make sure that you get your reader's response done and submitted as soon as possible. If you have trouble finding anything, let me know. Email me. And that is that. Have a good week, Mustangs.